Ron Brown is retiring after 30 years with Newswatch 12. And when I first started, one of the stories that you were talking about the most was the Mary D. Hume, still something of general interest.
That boat, it sits in the boat basin at Gold Beach, and about the time that I started working here, it was brought in, and it was going to be set on display, and it sunk, and it's still sunk, and it's still sitting there. And this, it's interesting. Take a look at this story, and then if you've been back any time recently, compare to what it looks like now.
If you've driven up Highway 101 any time in the past few years, you may have seen the Mary D. Hume. She looks tired now and is stuck fast in the mud at the mouth of the Rogue River. But it wasn't always so. The Mary D. Hume began her long career here 115 years ago. And what a career it was. It took her from hunting whales in the Arctic to towing rafts of logs in Puget Sound.
She had a rather extensive usage on the thing. And she had 2 steam engines and 1 diesel engine, and she was rebuilt over and over again, but she was always there. She always worked.
In the late 70s, she was donated to the Curry County Historical Society, but an accident while trying to move the 90-foot ship punched a hole in the hull, and there she sank. Battle over ownership of the Mary D. Hume has left her future somewhat in limbo. While her future may be in doubt, her past is anchored in glory.
It was the last wooden Arctic whaling vessel still afloat, but the most important thing was that in its career, it had the most valuable cargo of whale baleen of any whaling vessel in the history of the country.
The keel of the Mary D. Hume is cut from one 140-foot-long fur log that was cut upriver from Gold Beach back in 1880. The hull is made of 2 layers of Port Orford cedar planking, covered with ironwood to withstand Arctic ice. The Mary D. Hume was named for the wife of Robert Hume, the man who a century ago controlled most of the salmon canning business on the South Coast. And unlike most ships, she always kept her original name. When the Mary D. Hume returned home nearly 20 years ago, hopes were high she would be the focus for South Coast tourism. Now, no one seems to know what to do with her.
If the engine and the superstructure and everything were taken off, so just the hull was left, it might be able to be moved out of the river.
After having gone through all the effort to get it down here and all the work that Walt did, a lot of local people put into that boat and getting it to where it is, and then have it fall off that cradle was a kind of a heartbreaking thing, really.
Well, if you've seen it recently, I'm not the only thing that's gotten worse over the last 20 years. Right. Mary D. Hume not looking as good as it did in that video, that's for sure.
A lot of tides have washed across the deck in all these almost 30 years, and it's just not faring up very well, but it's a landmark, and a lot of people come from all up and down the coast just to see it, and I was glad to be able to see it when it was still sort of in its prime.
Well, if you want to see more of what Ron did while he was in his prime, you can head to our website, KDRV.com, look under the Features tab and see the best of Ron Brown's stories, and that was just one of them, and there are a lot more there.